Welcome to GreenBiz Studio. I'm Nethra Rajendran, Corporate Sustainability Manager here at GreenBiz, and I'm excited to be speaking today with Dave Armon, CEO at 3BL. Hi, Dave. Welcome.
Hi, Nethra. Thanks for having me.
Of course. I'd love to ask you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about 3BL's mission.
Sure, happy to do it. 3BL, for those who don't know us, they might say it's three bull, but it's stands for triple bottom line, and it's obviously companies that don't just have profits on their bottom line, but it's people, planet, and profits that they pay attention to, and that's the client base. And we've been around since 2009, and we've built a very sizable audience of we call it the Sustainerati, but it's the stakeholders that care an awful lot about business and climate and social impact and important issues such as this. And we've built software that allows companies to communicate their goals and the progress that they're having along toward their goals and get engagement data back on what content's resonating. And it's a fun little business. We're based in Massachusetts. We have about 50 people and very strong client roster of hundreds of companies that are purpose driven that want to tell the story about what they're up to.
That's wonderful. I know that 3BL has this approach to prioritize continuous communication over that standard periodic reporting that companies usually do once a year. So, when thinking about that, what advantages does this approach offer in terms of stakeholder engagement and transparency?
Well, the always on approach to communicating around sustainability works for our clients because that once a year report is actually really hard to read. I mean, it's hundreds of pages in some cases. You know, um, Companies will sort of pack the entire year or the entire decade in there, and then they'll look forward to 2040 or 2050, and it's just difficult to consume in one sitting. So what we've done is encourage companies to sort of provide progress reports throughout the year and don't get so formal about everything. The report's been approved, it's been looked at by the legal counsel, and the CEO has signed off, and the CSO is happy with it. But there's also milestones that happen along the way that are very human. The employee day of service, where a company goes and plants oysters in the water near the company headquarters to clean up the water, and there's building homes with Habitat for Humanity, and there's also just big milestones that would happen along renewables, and the solar farm goes live, or they put wind power in the parking lot, and suddenly you can disconnect from the grid. So those are all stories that we like to encourage along the way. And the other thing about always on communications, Nathra, is that in today's AI-driven world, a lot of I'm talking mostly about the investment market. There's an awful lot of bots and spiders and scrapers that are out there looking for any source of information that would either validate a company's action or disqualify because they haven't said a word since the 2018 when they set this goal. So these ongoing kind of affirmations that you're really working on it help.
And speaking in terms within that always on communication model, how do you advise companies to stay responsive to emerging sustainability challenges or changes in stakeholder expectations?
Well, I think the analytics that our platform provides are really helpful along those lines, Nathra. Companies can see that a piece of content that they've distributed over the network, maybe it's a video about DE&I, or it's a blog post written by some senior corporate leader about a new governance initiative or something that the company's committed to. You can take a look. It's almost like A/B testing, but it's AZ testing on all of this content and decide. There's really a lot of interest in this area, but what we thought would be popular or isn't really moving the needle. So then you can decide kind of what goes on the front of the next sustainability report, and also kind of maybe look to freshen up initiatives that the company's committed to that are really tied to the business goals of the organization. But maybe the storytelling is falling flat, so you can get a little better at that, looking at data.
So, my last question for you, Dave, is given the polarizing nature of sustainability and impact topics, how does 3BL navigate communication to ensure that messages resonate with diverse audiences? Can you share a specific instance where continuous communication has played a role in bridging those gaps among stakeholders with varying perspectives on these issues?
Yeah, it's been surprising in the last 4 or 5 years how polarizing this has become. Not only in sustainability communications, but just across our world. The culture wars are a real thing. I think we have seen when brand activism was at the forefront, and a lot of companies recognize that their reputation could be bolstered if they would just, stop being so corporate and such a robot, but actually get out there and say, this is a moral imperative that we back up these employees. I'm thinking back about, Microsoft with the Dreamers, and Brad Smith, the president of Microsoft, said, if you want to come after the Dreamers, you have to come through the Microsoft legal department first. Or Dick's Sporting Goods taking the guns off the shelves in their store and realizing there's going to be a hit here to sales. CVS doing that with tobacco. So we do see a lot of sort of testing and communication over our network, and companies will seek to get input, before they change policy. But they also can talk honestly about what has occurred and what the upside and what the downside is, and sort of defend the action, or if necessary, kind of explain why they're changing course. So, I think that in this era, heading into a presidential election at the end of 2024, there are a lot of companies in this sort of green hushing mode, and they believe it's safer to be quiet. We're more in the area of green action, where companies have decided that this is who we are, and we're not going to back away from that. Our employees expect us to talk about these things and to continue along our goal and our path. So, we're happy to be in the place we are, but it is definitely more fraught with dilemmas than it was a few years ago, when everybody was saying, yeah, these SDGs from the United Nations are laying out a really really clear blueprint for us. But there's been wars since then. There's been COVID since then. There's been a lot of kind of trauma and social inequity, and we've morphed along with our client base to be able to handle that and encourage dialogue, and bring people together to have an honest talk about it.
You said it best. I think the landscape is changing and evolving daily at this point. So it's very important to stay on top of these trends. And we thank you for being here, Dave. And to our GreenBiz audience, you just heard from Dave Armon, CEO at 3BL. And once again, I'm Nethra Rajendran, and this has been a wonderful studio interview. Thanks again, Dave, for being here.
Thank you, Nethra. Take care.